Jake's garage, Jake's Fix-It, was more of a barely gets by than a thriving business. The paint was peeling, the sign was crooked, and Jake himself usually sported grease under his fingernails and a worried frown. He was a wizard with engines, able to coax life back into sputtering machines that other mechanics had given up on. But Jake wasn't so good with numbers or marketing. He trusted people, often giving discounts to those who looked down on their luck, which more often than not left him short on cash. His small town was slowly being overtaken by corporate chains, and the shiny, new mega auto down the road was siphoning away his customers. Jake loved his work, the smell of oil and the satisfaction of a job well done. But lately, the weight of bills and the threat of closure were heavy on his shoulders. He just needed a break, a lucky turn, or maybe just one big job to get him back on his feet. Miles away, Alexandra Alex Harrington III traded her tailored suits and high-powered board meetings for worn leather and the open road. Tired of the superficial relationships built on wealth and status, she craved something real, something genuine. So, she chopped off her long hair, donned a biker jacket, and hopped on her vintage Harley-Davidson, leaving behind the life of a billionaire heiress. She wanted to find someone who liked her for her, not her bank account. She'd chosen a small town, hoping to blend in, to become just another face in the crowd. Alex loved the anonymity, the feeling of freedom as the wind whipped through what was left of her hair. Little did she know, her search for authenticity would lead her straight to a struggling mechanic with a heart of gold. As fate would have it, or perhaps a slightly loosened spark plug courtesy of Alex herself, her Harley began to sputter and cough just as she cruised past Jake's Fix-It. With a final groan, the engine died completely, leaving her stranded right in front of the garage. Perfect. Alex feigned frustration, kicking at the tire with her worn leather boot. Great! She muttered loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. She knew a thing or two about engines, having grown up around her father's extensive car collection. But she needed to play the part of a damsel in distress if she wanted her experiment to work. She pushed the heavy bike towards the garage, hoping the mechanic inside was as honest as the town gossip suggested. This was her chance to see if Jake was the real deal. Koo, wiping grease from his hands with a rag, emerged from the shadowy depths of his garage. He saw Alex struggling with the bike and his brow furrowed with concern. "Need a hand?" he called out, his voice a little rough but kind. He didn't hesitate, jogging over to help her maneuver the heavy machine into the garage. "Rough day for a ride, huh?" he said, a small smile playing on his lips. He glanced at the motorcycle, already assessing the potential problem. "Don't you worry, I'll take a look." "What happened?" Alex put on her best I know nothing about cars face. "It just stopped," she said, shrugging helplessly. "I don't know anything about engines." Inside, she was impressed. Jake hadn't even asked for money yet. He was just being helpful. So far, he was passing the test. As Jake tinkered with the engine, his brow furrowed in concentration, Alex leaned against a dusty workbench, watching him. "So," she began, trying to sound casual, "how long have you had this place?" Jake didn't look up. "All my life, practically. My dad started it, and I took over when he retired." He paused, a hint of sadness in his voice. "It's been tough lately, though. Big chains moving in, you know?" Alex nodded, pretending to understand the struggles of a small business owner. "That's rough," she said, genuinely feeling for him. He finally looked up, his eyes meeting hers. "Yeah, but I love what I do. Can't imagine doing anything else." He smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile that made Alex's stomach flutter. She found herself drawn to his passion, his dedication, and his unassuming kindness. This was exactly the kind of person she was searching for. Hours passed as Jake meticulously worked on the Harley. He explained each step to Alex, even though she pretended not to understand. He talked about carburetors and spark plugs, his passion evident in every word. Alex, in turn, shared stories of her travels, carefully edited to conceal her wealth and privilege. She spoke of riding through national parks, camping under the stars, and the thrill of the open road. Jake listened intently, captivated by her adventurous spirit. He'd always dreamed of seeing the world, but his responsibilities to the garage and his small-town life had kept him grounded. Alex represented a life he only dared to imagine. He found her easy to talk to, her laughter infectious. He hadn't felt this comfortable with someone in a long time. There was something about her that felt real. Finally, with a satisfied grin, Jake wiped his hands clean. "She's good to go," he announced. "Just a loose spark plug. Easy fix." Alex feigned relief. "Oh, thank goodness. How much do I owe you?" Jake hesitated for a moment, glancing around his cluttered garage. He could really use the money. But then he looked at Alex, her trusting eyes and genuine smile, and his resolve softened. "Just the cost of the spark plug," he said. $5. Alex was stunned. She knew he was struggling, and he could have easily charged her much more. The mega auto down the street certainly would have. "Are you sure?" she asked, searching his eyes. Jake nodded firmly. "Yup, just glad I could help." In that moment, Alex knew she'd found something special. Jake's integrity shone brighter than any diamond. He was truly a good person, and that was worth more than all the money in the world. Alex pulled out a well-worn credit card, one without any obvious signs of wealth, and swiped it through Jake's ancient machine. As the receipt printed, she thanked him profusely. "You're a lifesaver, Jake. I really appreciate it." Jake blushed slightly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Anytime, Alex. Just glad I could help you get back on the road." "Well," Alex said, a mischievous glint in her eyes, "I'm sure I'll be seeing you around." She gave him a wink, hopped on her now purring Harley, and roared off, leaving Jake standing in the doorway, a smile playing on his lips. He watched her disappear down the road, a feeling of warmth spreading through his chest. He hadn't felt this good in ages. Maybe, just maybe, things were starting to look up. Little did he know, his life was about to change in ways he couldn't even imagine. The roar of the Harley faded as Alex pulled into a secluded clearing just outside of town. Hidden amongst the trees was her temporary home, a luxurious, custom-designed RV that rivaled most apartments. Stepping inside, she was greeted by plush leather seating, a fully equipped kitchen, and a panoramic view of the surrounding forest. But as she sat there, sipping a glass of imported wine, she wasn't thinking about her comfortable surroundings. Her mind was replaying her encounter with Jake. His kind eyes, his genuine smile, his passion for his work. It all felt so different. She'd met countless wealthy and powerful men in her life, but none of them had made her feel the way Jake did. There was a spark, a genuine connection that she hadn't experienced before. She knew she had to see him again. But how? The next morning, Alex returned to Jake's fix-it. This time, the Harley was running perfectly, but she needed an excuse. She walked into the garage, affecting a worried expression. "Hey Jake," she said. "I was hoping you could take a look. It's probably nothing, but I think it might need a tune-up." Jake looked surprised to see her so soon, but his face lit up with a smile. "A tune-up, huh? Sure thing, Alex. I can take a look. What makes you think it needs one?" Alex shrugged, pretending to listen intently to the engine. "I don't know, it just doesn't sound as smooth as it did yesterday. Maybe I'm just being paranoid." Jake chuckled. "Well, paranoia is my specialty. Let's get her up on the lift and see what's what." He winked, and Alex's heart skipped a beat. This was going to be easier than she thought. The tune-up turned into a series of visits. Alex invented new reasons to stop by Jake's fix-it. A squeaky brake, a rattling sound, a general checkup. Each visit allowed them to spend more time together, sharing stories and laughter. Alex found herself genuinely enjoying the simple life, far removed from the pressures of her real identity. One sunny afternoon, Jake suggested a picnic. He packed sandwiches and lemonade, and they drove out to a nearby lake. They sat by the water, talking for hours about everything and nothing. Alex confessed her love for old movies, and Jake admitted his secret passion for painting landscapes. It was a simple, perfect day, and Alex realized she was falling for Jake. Hard. She was truly happy. For the first time in her life, she felt like she was being seen for who she truly was, not for what she had. Meanwhile, down the road at Mega Auto, Bob, the manager, was seething. He'd noticed the increase in traffic at Jake's Fix-It, and he didn't like it one bit. He saw Jake as an outdated relic, a threat to his corporate empire. Bob decided to take matters into his own hands. He started spreading rumors around town, telling people that Jake's business was failing, that his equipment was old and unreliable, and that he was about to close down. He hoped to scare Jake's customers into switching to Mega Auto, where they could get reliable service and modern technology. His tactics were underhanded and cruel, but Bob didn't care. He was determined to run Jake out of business. The whispers started to reach Jake, adding to his already heavy burden. One afternoon, while browsing the aisles of the local hardware store, Alex overheard Bob talking to a customer. He was leaning in conspiratorially, lowering his voice, but Alex's sharp ears caught every word. Jake's Fix-It? Oh, I wouldn't trust him. Heard he's about to go under. Can't even afford to keep the lights on, let alone fix your car properly. Come on down to Mega Auto. We'll give you a fair price and reliable service. Alex's blood boiled. She knew Jake was struggling, but to actively sabotage his business with lies was despicable. Her initial plan was to find true love, but now she was on a mission to protect Jake from this corporate bully. She clenched her fists, her mind already racing with ways to help him. Anonymously, of course. Bob was about to learn that messing with Jake was a very, very bad idea. That night, Alex put her plan into action. Using a burner phone and a fake business name, she placed a massive order with Jake's usual supplier. She requested a huge quantity of spark plugs, oil filters, tires, and other essential parts, all to be delivered directly to Jake's Fix-It. She paid for everything up front, ensuring there would be no questions asked. The next morning, Jake was stunned when a delivery truck pulled up to his garage, overflowing with supplies. He hadn't ordered anything, and the driver couldn't tell him who had. He checked the invoice, but the name was unfamiliar. It was like a miracle had happened. Suddenly, he had everything he needed to fix any car or motorcycle that came through his door. He could finally catch up on his backlog and maybe even start making a profit. He had no idea who his mysterious benefactor was, but he was incredibly grateful. Word spread quickly about Jake's sudden good fortune. Customers flocked to his garage, eager to take advantage of his newfound abundance of parts and his reliable service. Jake was busier than he'd ever been, working day and night to keep up with the demand. One evening, Alex stopped by, ostensibly to check on her motorcycle. Jake, covered in grease and beaming with exhaustion, rushed over to greet her. "Alex, you won't believe what happened," he exclaimed, his voice filled with excitement. "I got this huge delivery of parts out of the blue. Business is booming. I don't know who sent them, but they saved my life." He paused, looking at her with genuine gratitude. "You're my lucky charm, Alex. Ever since you came to town, things have been looking up." He gave her a tired but heartfelt smile, completely unaware of her role in his sudden success. Alex felt a pang of guilt, but also a thrill of satisfaction. She was helping him even if he didn't know it. One afternoon, while Alex was at the garage, Jake had the local news on the small, dusty television in the corner. Suddenly, a familiar face flashed across the screen. Alexandra Harrington III, announcing her annual charity gala. The camera zoomed in on her elegant gown and sparkling jewels, a stark contrast to the biker gear Alex was currently wearing. Alex froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She lunged for the remote, frantically changing the channel before Jake could get a good look. "Ugh, I hate these society stories," she said, trying to sound nonchalant, but it was too late. Jake had definitely seen something. He looked at her with a puzzled expression. "Wait a minute," he said, squinting his eyes. "Wasn't that?" He trailed off, trying to place the face. Alex held her breath, praying he wouldn't recognize her. This could ruin everything. Luckily for Alex, Jake was easily distracted. He glanced back at the TV, a flicker of confusion in his eyes, but then shrugged it off. He was more concerned about the upcoming town motorcycle rally. It was a big event, and he wanted to participate, not just to win the prize money, which he desperately needed to upgrade his equipment, but also to show Bob at Mega Auto that Jake's Fix-It was still a force to be reckoned with. Speaking of motorcycles, Jake said, changing the subject, are you planning on entering the rally? Alex breathed a sigh of relief. I hadn't thought about it, she replied, playing it cool. Are you? Definitely, Jake said, a competitive glint in his eye. I'm gonna win that thing. He paused, then added with a grin. Unless you're planning on giving me a run for my money. The near miss was forgotten, at least for now. You know what? Alex said, a sly grin spreading across her face. I think I might just give you a run for your money. Jake chuckled. I'd like to see you try. Over the next few days, Jake poured all his spare time into preparing his motorcycle for the rally. He tinkered with the engine, polished the chrome, and made sure everything was in perfect working order. Alex, despite her initial hesitation, became his biggest cheerleader. She helped him research the best tires, offered advice on engine tuning, and even designed a custom paint job for his bike. You've got this, Jake, she said, her eyes shining with encouragement. I know you can win. She knew he needed that prize money, and she wanted to see him succeed, both for himself and for his business. She also couldn't resist the thrill of a little friendly competition, even if she wasn't planning on winning. This was about supporting Jake and having some fun along the way. The day of the rally arrived, filled with roaring engines and cheering crowds. Jake, fueled by adrenaline and Alex's unwavering support, was in the lead, skillfully navigating the challenging course. Bob from Mega Auto was close behind, but Jake was determined to keep him at bay. Suddenly, disaster struck. With only a few laps to go, Jake's motorcycle began to sputter and lose power. He pulled over to the side of the track, frustration etched on his face. He knew his chances of winning were slipping away. Alex, who had been watching from the sidelines, rushed to his side. What's wrong? She asked, her voice filled with concern. Jake shook his head in despair. I don't know. It just started losing power. I think it's the fuel line. Without hesitation, Alex dropped to her knees and began examining the engine. Years of watching her father's mechanics at work had given her a surprising amount of knowledge about engines. Knowledge she had been hiding from Jake. It's not the fuel line, she said, her voice confident. It's a clogged carburetor. I can fix it. Working quickly and efficiently, Alex used a small toolkit she conveniently had in her bag to clean the carburetor. Jake watched in amazement as she expertly disassembled and reassembled the part, her movements precise and confident. In a matter of minutes, the engine sputtered back to life. Get back out there, Jake, Alex yelled over the roar of the crowd. You can still win. Jake, filled with renewed hope and admiration for Alex, jumped back on his bike and rejoined the race. He pushed his motorcycle to its limits, catching up to the other racers with incredible speed. In the final lap, he overtook Bob from Mega Auto and crossed the finish line, victorious. The crowd erupted in cheers, and Jake raised his arms in triumph. As he accepted the trophy and the prize money, he looked at Alex, his eyes shining with gratitude. I couldn't have done it without you, he said, his voice choked with emotion. This victory is for Alex, my lucky charm and my amazing mechanic. He winked, and Alex smiled, her heart swelling with pride. But the moment of celebration was short-lived. She knew she couldn't keep her secret forever. The guilt had been gnawing at Alex for weeks, but seeing Jake's face light up with joy and gratitude after the rally solidified her decision. She couldn't continue living a lie, no matter how much she wanted to protect their connection. It wasn't fair to Jake, and it wasn't fair to herself. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the town, Alex took a deep breath and turned to Jake. There's something I need to tell you, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Something about me, about who I really am. She knew this conversation could change everything, could shatter the trust they had built and destroy their budding romance. But she also knew that honesty was the only foundation on which a true relationship could be built. It was time to face the music, to reveal the truth, and to hope that Jake could accept her, not for her money, but for who she was inside. It was a risk, but one she was willing to take. Alex led Jake to the secluded clearing outside of town, the location of her hidden RV. His eyes widened as he took in the sight of the luxurious vehicle, a stark contrast to his humble garage. "What is this place?" he asked, his voice filled with confusion. "This is where I've been staying," Alex said, taking a deep breath. "Jake, my name isn't really Alex. It's Alexandra Harrington III, and I'm very wealthy." She invited him inside, and as he sat on the plush leather sofa, she explained everything. Her dissatisfaction with her privileged life, her desire for genuine connection, her decision to disguise herself and search for true love. She told him about the charity gala, her fear of being recognized, and her relief that he hadn't made the connection. "I wanted to find someone who loved me for me, Jake, not for my money." She looked at him, her eyes pleading. "Please believe that what we have is real." He stared at Alex, his mind reeling. The luxurious RV, the revelation of her true name and identity, it was all too much to process. He felt a wave of emotions wash over him. Shock, disbelief, and then a bitter sense of betrayal. You lied to me?" he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Everything we shared, was it all just a game to you? Was I just some project, some experiment to see if a billionaire could fall for a small-town mechanic?" He stood up abruptly, pacing the small space. "And the parts?" he said, his voice rising in anger. "Did you send those? Was that some kind of charity case?" He looked at her, his eyes filled with hurt and confusion. I thought you were different. I thought you were real." He couldn't reconcile the woman he had fallen for with the wealthy heiress standing before him. He needed time to think, to sort through his emotions, to figure out if anything they had shared had been genuine. Without another word, Jake turned and walked out of the RV, leaving Alex standing alone, tears streaming down her face. He needed space, time to think, to decide if he could ever trust her again. For the next few days, Jake avoided Alex. He threw himself into his work, fixing cars and motorcycles, trying to forget about the woman who had turned his world upside down. He didn't answer her calls or respond to her texts. He needed to figure out if what they had was real, or if it was just a carefully constructed illusion. Was she capable of loving a simple guy like him, or was she just playing a game? He knew he couldn't make a decision until he had sorted through his feelings. The silence was deafening, and Alex was starting to fear that she had lost him forever. Alex respected Jake's need for space, but she couldn't just stand by and do nothing. She wanted to prove that her feelings were genuine, that she cared about more than just his garage. She cared about his town. Using her influence and resources, she anonymously funded a new community center, providing a safe space for kids after school. She donated to the local library, helping them expand their collection and upgrade their computers. She even helped revitalize the town square, adding new benches and landscaping. These acts of kindness were not about winning Jake back with money, but about showing him that she understood and appreciated his world, that she wanted to make a positive impact on the community he loved. She hoped that he would see that her heart was in the right place, and that her actions spoke louder than her words. The town buzzed with excitement over the mysterious benefactor, unaware of Alex's involvement. Cook couldn't help but notice the positive changes sweeping through his town. He saw the kids laughing and playing at the new community center, the elderly folks enjoying the new benches in the town square, and the students eagerly using the updated computers at the library. He heard the townspeople buzzing with excitement and gratitude for the anonymous donor. He started to realize that Alex's wealth hadn't changed her core values. She was still the same kind, generous, and compassionate person he had fallen for. He began to understand her reasons for the disguise, her desire to find someone who loved her for who she was, not for her money. He knew he had misjudged her, letting his own insecurities cloud his judgment. He needed to apologize, to tell her that he understood, and to ask for a second chance. He missed her terribly. Ko found Alex at the lake where they had shared their picnic, sitting on the same blanket, gazing out at the water. He approached her cautiously. "Alex," he said softly. "Or Alexandra. I'm sorry. I was wrong to doubt you. I see now that your money hasn't changed who you are. I understand why you did what you did. Alex turned to him, her eyes filled with hope. Does this mean? Jake knelt down beside her, taking her hand in his. It means I was a fool. I love you, Alex, for who you are, not for what you have. They acknowledged that their different worlds presented challenges, but they were committed to making it work. They would face those challenges together, supporting each other every step of the way. They embraced, forgiving each other's mistakes and promising to be honest and open from now on. They would build a future, brick by brick, based on love, trust, and acceptance. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but they were determined to find a balance that worked for both of them. Alex couldn't simply abandon her responsibilities and her life in the city, and Jake couldn't just leave his garage and his small-town roots behind. So they decided to split their time. Alex would spend a few weeks in the city, attending board meetings and managing her family's business. And then she would return to the small town to be with Jake. He would visit her in the city occasionally, experiencing her world and meeting her friends and family. They would learn to navigate each other's lives, embracing the differences and cherishing the similarities. It was a compromise, but it was a compromise built on love and understanding. They were willing to make the effort to bridge the gap between their two worlds, because they knew that what they had was worth fighting for. The final scene shows Jake and Alex, no longer defined by their separate worlds, but united by their love. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the open road. Jake is at the helm of his beloved motorcycle, the one Alex helped him fix, the one that symbolizes their connection. Alex is behind him, her arms wrapped tightly around his waist, her head resting against his back. They are riding together, a symbol of their blended lives and enduring love. Alex still visits boardrooms and attends galas, but she always makes time for Jake and his small town. Jake still runs his garage, fixing cars and motorcycles, but he also travels to the city to be with Alex. They have found a way to make it work, to bridge the gap between their two worlds. They are happy, content, and deeply in love. Their journey had been filled with challenges, but they had overcome them together, proving that true love can conquer all, even the greatest of differences. They ride off into the sunset, their love story just beginning.